to introduce this morning's keynote speaker, Dr. Henrietta Mann, my auntie. Dr. Mann got her bachelor's degree in education from Southwestern Oklahoma State University, a master's from Oklahoma State, and a Doctor of Philosophy degree from the University of New Mexico. She's the first president of Cheyenne and Arapaho Tribal College, and she continues to serve as special assistant to the president of Montana State University in Bozeman, where she served before. And she was the first individual to fill the endowed chair in Native American Studies at Montana State. She's been a member of our Council of Elders for many years. How many?
I don't know. My AISES medal says 1989. So
the AISES medal says 1989. It's been on the Council of Elders for some time. She's been a mentor, an inspiration, a guide, and of course one of our wise women. Has guided a lot of us younger folks and a lot of students. Has held the hand of those who cry, and she stood beside our AISES folks in times of victory. She's received many awards, and tonight she'll be honored as the next Elias Parker Award winner, AISES' highest honor. So she's going to give the keynote address to this assembly this morning. Dr. Mann, it's my high honor to ask you to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Henrietta Mann.
I can get my Kleenex. Oh, but actually, in tribute to my mother, who always wanted me to carry hankies with lace on them, I think that just marks me in terms of time. In her estimation, a lady should always carry a hanky. And so I do that to honor my mother. Outlaws. Oh my gosh. I do believe that we live in a nation with outlaws. Not us. Sometimes truth can just be flipped, and how much further from the truth could it be? Thank goodness for them, we're very inclusive societies. And so we share with them. We continue to try to teach them. Thank you, Anthony.
Here you go.
We don't want it to fall. Let's all hold our breath. Okay, okay. You can tell I've been in the classroom a long time. It was my childhood dream to become a teacher. At age 5, I decided I was going to be a teacher. And we are here today to honor the memory of a wonderful, wonderful man. You know, we wear medals to commemorate this man called Sequoyah, who can be defined very eloquently in word pictures, but this morning I just want to use one word descriptors. I can make complete sentences. I did get several degrees in English so I could learn to speak, and I still don't do all that well, but we work with our challenges. But he was a genius. He was an analyst. Can you imagine that he could listen to the Cherokee language and reduce it to an alphabet, a syllabary? Wow. An analyst like many of you sitting in this room. He was remarkable. He was a dreamer. A visionary. An inventor. And a teacher. He and one of his children went around teaching their relatives to learn to write in this syllabary that he had developed. And in developing that syllabary had shaped a new world of wondrous opportunity and knowledge for the people known as Cherokee. That was in 1821. And with this syllabary, Sequoyah made the Cherokee highly literate in this use of English language in less than 1 year's time. And the Cherokee became even more literate than their Anglo neighbors of Arkansas and Texas. Can you imagine that? Literacy. And this, he started out with 85 characters that symbolize sound patterns, but then he later added one sound, resulting in an 86-character syllabary, which became the vehicle for the talking leaves. Our languages are so beautiful and descriptive. And consequently, as a result of this syllabary that this remarkable man, this visionary, this dreamer, this inventor, this analyst had developed, it resulted in the first Native American newspaper, the Cherokee Phoenix. But when I stop and look at the first Native American newspaper, I can add to that many firsts. We have to remember that you are the first scientists of this land. You are the first technologists. You are the first engineers. You are the first mathematicians. You are first in absolutely everything on this turtle island that is now called the United States of America, which includes this wonderful, beautiful land of whiteness and snow. First. No other people can claim those distinctions. First teachers, first students, first administrators. First. That should fuel our motivations for what it is that we do. Even now, greater society is talking about native science. I guess they finally decided that they didn't bring science with them. That our ancestors were the first scientists who stopped and observed this world about them and developed very sophisticated and sound systems that we now call science. wonderful mathematicians who knew what algebra, but particular geometry were all about. And I think of all of the wonders that are still being unearthed in and around the Chaco Canyon area in the desert Southwest. That knowledge. And they could draw straight lines over mountains, rivers, streams, perfectly aligned. They have a sun dagger for what, 17 minutes on June 21st, the sun draws a perfect dagger on Fajada Butte that tells us where we are in terms of time and space. And with those 19 circles of that spiral marks the 19 lunar cycle. Scientists, geometrists, oh my gosh. We have such a wonderful and spectacular ancestry that, like you, I cannot ever think of life as other than who we are, as the Kamawostanil, the natural, the ordinary, the simple people of this land. My goodness. So it was but one step to have that first Native American newspaper, the first newspaper maybe, well, maybe, but our first newspaper. And this syllabary allowed the Cherokee to write down their stories, very important, and to retain them for the future so that they would never disappear from the world of memory. That's spectacular, because we know today there are so many native languages that are at risk. Some have disappeared, and others are facing extinction. Those beautiful and wonderful means of expressing our relationship to this world about us. Suffice it to say that this great hero, Sequoyah, gave the gift of literacy to his nation. So this AISES lifetime membership program was named in memory of him. A great hero, a great man. And this fellowship offers individuals a way of honoring this great gift of this great man. But more importantly, Sequoyah Fellows are recognized for their commitment, the commitment to the mission of AISES in the STEM fields. I'm talking in acronyms. I don't need to say it for you. And that commitment to our communities. Can you imagine what you as Sequoyah Fellows have contributed financially to your organization? 1,000 Sequoyah Fellows multiplied by $1,000 results in what? One with 6 zeros after it. So, $1 million. But we need to keep that alive. We need to have more Sequoyah Fellows so that we can keep and sustain our organization. And Sequoyah Fellows continue to contribute to the growth of not just the strength of the AISES, but to the students believe we have always been here for the students, for the children, and for you as professionals, to teachers, and to the world of academia. And AISES as an organization has reached thousands of our relatives and continues to fuel their creativity, their interest, and leadership in the STEM fields. And we know that AISES, through the assistance of our capable staff, under the leadership of our wonderful, qualified board of directors, with Joe as its chair, that it has maintained its initial commitment to its vision. I mean, we have a range of servant students at the pre-college level, and I had the honor yesterday of sitting in with Marissa with the pre-college level students. Oh, bright young minds. They wanted to learn all about how and what it takes to get into college. And they had some very excellent recommendations about what they want to see in terms of their workshops next year. They know that there's something called ACT tests, SAT tests. They want to know about them. They want to know how to fill out a college application. They're very real. And so we've got these pre-college programs. We have those of our students in college. I just love to sit in a corner somewhere during the AISES convention and watch these young people, these students walk in front of us. I love to see them when they get their awards. I just love to see them, just like the other day, and they were very proud of the regions that they represented. They're strong, strong voices. And then on into the professional years with the very strong professional chapters that make up AISES, and ultimately into retirement. I want to tell you a secret. Supposedly I retired. I retired from Montana State University, and for one afternoon, I retired on the last day of June in 2003, and then on the first day of July, I went to work as special assistant to the president of Montana State University, probably the second person in the country to hold that kind of position, the first person being the very esteemed Peterson Saw at Arizona State University. Now maybe we have a handful. That's not very many of us in those key leadership positions in institutions of higher education. And I was visiting the other day with one of the founders of the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, Jerry Elliott, J.C. High Eagle. And I discovered that AISES was incorporated in Oklahoma. Did you know that? I didn't. That's really my home state. And of course, we know that it was headquartered in Colorado prior to moving camp to its current home in Albuquerque. And that today, AISES has about 3,000 members. What a strong organization. And those of you sitting around this room make AISES the strong family that it is. You know, I look at life through cultural eyes. I'm not just an academician, someone that went and said, I'm going to break down that glass ceiling in an institution of higher education or institutions of higher education, beginning with UC Berkeley, going to Harvard, teaching at Haskell Indian Nations University. Life has always been a challenge. And like you, I want to help our younger people cut through those challenges. But I have cultural eyes. And my cultural eyes tell me about this man whom we call a prophet. In fact, we as Cheyennes had two of them, but his name is Matsu'eyoy, sweet medicine. And many, many, many years ago, sweet medicine journeyed north to a sacred mountain on the northern plains called Noahwus, our teaching mountain, the hill that gives, the hill that gave us as a people our way of life, as Tzitzis, the people of the sacred mountain, the people hearted alike. I am told by my elders that that man lived for 446 years, 4 long lifetimes of a person. And he was taught within that teaching mountain, within Noahwus for 4 years, where all of the spirit powers of the world assembled to teach him our ways. And it was from there that he carried our tribal covenant out to us and established our tribal structure. And he told us toward the end of his life that one day we would encounter this handsome, light-skinned, fair-haired, blue-eyed people who would come to us, and we'd look at them, and they would look like they were wearing sacks. We'd be tightly confined in clothing. We were to call them Vihel. And Vihel is the same word that we use to denote a spider. And that once we encountered these Vihel, that there would be a resulting imbalance of our world. And he gave us some prophecies, many of them, but 2 that I feel that I must mention. One is that he said, the earth will burn. I think he's talking about, well, I don't think, I know, he's talking about global warming. And he said that we had to be very diligent and watch the weather from the doors and windows of our home. And to be very proactive about watching that weather and to make sure that we seek safety. I wished I could have helped, like many of you, those of our relatives on the East Coast. I've sort of been isolated since I have been here with you. I mean, you made my world so complete and so happy. I didn't want to look at that. Something called television. And when I did yesterday, I was horrified about what our relatives on the East Coast are being subjected to. Hunger, cold. They're doing without fossil fuel or it's at a premium. and lines upon lines, food lines. Abrupt and severe changes in the weather. We had another prophet called AISES Erectors, who brought us our renewal ceremony, our earth renewal ceremony, the sun dance. And of course, his teachings are manifold as well. But he reminded us that we live in a relational universe, a universe in which we are related to everything that exists therein, in all creation. And he explained to us many things. And he said you have to go into ceremony every year. And through those ceremonies, help to keep the earth alive. We really need to be about ceremonies in terms of where the earth is at this moment in time. We were also instructed by erectors to lead a life of service, to always serve the people. I want to commend you for doing that, for living a life of service. To me, that's what AISES is all about. I go home so exhausted, renewed but exhausted. We elders are marched here, we're marched there, and poor Lee and Brock. I tell him, I says, my own turn. And he said, it's like herding turtles, isn't it? We get herded here, we go there. Brett pulls out his sheet of paper. You're to be here, you're to be there. We get our assignments. And we go. We go lovingly and willingly because of you. I'm going to go home and sleep for at least a day. Gail says no. But what I like most about AISES is that this is really a safe place, a safe camp. And if it isn't, we better go back and relook at the AISES mission. A sense of safety. I don't know that we have emphasized that sense of safety and safe camp to our young people the way that we used to. I can remember Norb Hill standing up here at the podium, saying to those young people, no alcohol, no this, that, and the other, and they knew their boundaries. I think they still do. But it never hurts for our grandparents' teachings and teachings like this that are very good teachings to be reaffirmed and to be emphasized. That was the way I learned. There were days that I thought, well, how many times is my grandfather going to tell me this? Obviously, I didn't hear well. And today, from this high hill of my age, I wished he were still here to tell me again. So that we need to make sure that we continue to create those safe camps, that sense of safety organizationally, in our homelands, in the workplace, and the college and university campuses across the nation where some of us were, and especially on planet Earth. And this is the only place we have to live. We can't go any other place. And I think we better take care of it. I remember when one of the 11 greatest thinkers of the 20th century walked among us, Vine Deloria, so acknowledged by Time magazine. And he and Norbert got together and they hosted what they called traditional knowledge conferences. And Vine always picks the topics for these topics. One of them dealt with the stars, our relationship and our connection to to the stars. Next time he talked about creation. And these were held in Indian country over a period of about 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. And then there was one of those traditional knowledge conferences that discussed our kinship and relationship to the four-leggeds and to all the animals of the world. And then the last one, next to the last one, was on giants and little people at Frank's Landing in Washington State. I later spoke to Vine. And he said, Henry, that was the best conference we ever had. There was so much discussion, there was so much interaction. I tell you, he said, it couldn't have been better. But none of you talked about giants and little people. That was fine. The last one was when he was already in the hospital, and we were at the Pueblo Cultural Center in Albuquerque. And he couldn't be with us because of his failing health at that time. So we worked to get him on speakerphone. And the IT people worked and it just couldn't come through. And then all of a sudden they turned this sound on and there was a vent, a light vent in the ceiling. And someone said, Vine, are you there? And he spoke to us out of that light vent. I mean, someone really had their wires crossed. And there was Vine up there. A voice from on high. That's the last time I ever talked to my friend. And so he and Norbert were, and he always teased Norbert mercilessly. Oh gosh, he was always respectful to me. And so Vine asked Norbert, Norbert, who's all there? So Norbert began to name everyone. He said, Henry's here. And Vine from on high says, do you still wear your hair standing straight up? I said,